All right, we are back for our week 3 recap of PB betting. Mr. Paisley, another college football week in the books. How are we feeling today?
Not the best, favorite team Notre Dame here, 0-2. It's a tough one. Stings, we'll get into it. What's going on? I don't think it's a major red flag, sound the alarms, but definitely not good when your team starts 0-2 in a 12-game season. It feels like the season's over and they got to run the table again. So that was a stinger, but, picks did good actually on my end. And so, got a nice money day on the Saturday here, but it's a little good and bad, I'd say, on Saturday.
Yeah, tough break for the Irish there at the end of that game. Crazy game, but yeah, definitely unfortunate. But on the bright side, you're right. The picks were pretty good, at least from your end. 14-8 on the week, 1-1 on the locks, and then I did not live up to the expectations this week, going 6-10. And another 0-1 on the locks. So my locks are really struggling this year right now at 1-4. But the good news is we have a whole season to go. And the best news of everything is back-to-back weeks. We have hit our underdog parlay of the week, cashing at plus 637 this week. So last week, I think we cashed it at plus about 537 or something like that. This week, plus 637. You had Vanderbilt beating South Carolina outright, which was a huge win for them, 31-7, knocking out Lenore Sellers and blowing them out. And then I had Bowling Green getting the win over Liberty. So that was some of the positives on our page as a whole. My picks started out great. I had New Mexico. I think we both kind of like New Mexico against UCLA on this past Friday. We'll get into UCLA, I guess, in a second, but they're just a mess right now. They fired their coach today. Not only did they cover, obviously, but they lost outright, like a 30-point swing on the spread on that game. And then, of course, I got A&M with the 6 points. I had an Oregon first half cover, which really should not have covered at all. I got really lucky with that at the end of the half. So it could have been even worse for me at 6-10. But overall, together as a page, we're, I guess, about 500 actually exactly right now. 54 wins, 54 losses, and 2 ties. It seems like we've been in this spot for a while, going back to last year. So hopefully we could break through. It seems like when you have a good week, I kind of have a bad week. And then when I have a good week, then you have a bad week. So it's kind of seems like it goes back and forth a lot. But nonetheless, we're still at 500.
Yeah, no, it's very true. We both just can't get on the same page in 1 week and have a good page as a team here. But yeah, like you said, the money line parlay hit, which is awesome, 2 weeks in a row. So we already doubled our total from last year. Up around close to 12 units plus on that, hitting both weeks. So that's going to be awesome. Hopefully keep looking to build that as the season goes on, hopefully gaining some traction there. So it's important you listen to the podcast here. We only give it out on the pod here, not on the page. So you're missing out on plus 12 units early on in the season here. But yeah, I was really happy with my card. Really was seeing the board clearly. Had a nice couple big underdogs cover. Started off, like you said, Friday night with Houston. We nailed our 2 picks on the bonus picks on Friday night. So if you're paying attention on the Twitter page too, we got those out. Like you said, Northwestern, that was a slow burn, but they did come back and cover the game there and held on at the end. Miami, I had big, which I had them first quarter, first half in real life, had them full game on the page here. And that was a perfect spot that we teed up. The USF was just a tough spot for them. They're still going to be good on the season. Couple picks we gave out, Middle Tennessee State, that probably weren't a lot of people were watching, won the game outright as almost 10-point dogs.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to a team that I'm very upset with. Not really Notre Dame, we'll get to them, but the Duke Blue Devils. I am done with them. We will get to them later in the show. But the other lock, Vanderbilt hitting, that was a nice breeze. They dominated that game. That game wasn't even close in South Carolina, so that was a very, very impressive win for them. And we'll get to it, but I thought the Notre Dame game played exactly like I thought. I just couldn't pick a side. It was back and forth all game, but the team total and the over points cleared very easily halfway through the third quarter, mid or early third quarter. So played out the way it was, and I was really happy with those results. So again, money wise, I was happy, but as a fan, it was a little crushing on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll get into the game by games here coming up in a moment. Just really quick, yeah, UCLA, they are a dumpster fire, lost their head coach this week. They fired him, Foster. I think that was long overdue. I don't know if you remember going back to last year, but that press conference when he was asked about, just about UCLA or some sort of like introduction, it was just really awkward. I don't know if he was trying to be funny or not. I really still to this day have no idea. Where he was just commenting like, "Yeah, we're a school in California and Southern Cal and USC's nearby." It just I don't know if it was supposed to be funny or not. I thought like he was just not all there, and I think based on their team, I think that might be more likely at this point. They are really bad, 0-3, and I'm not sure. I think they're definitely on 0-12 watch right now.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time a coach got fired. Like not even halfway into his second season, 3 games in. You usually don't see coach firings this early, so definitely a lot of rumblings. And it's just they're cutting the ties. So I got to give credit to these programs that they're just seeing it go in a different direction. They're getting out of it, getting out ahead. But you usually don't see this in college football this early, so it's a really, really bad sign if it is. And yeah, that game on Friday night, I was watching that. And when you have New Mexico, who is a bottom of the barrel FBS team, that is not what you want to be doing on your home turf. And you, like you said, getting 15 points and they beat you by 15, 20 points, absolutely embarrassing. So I think it was the right call for UCLA. And then with Virginia Tech too, with Brent Pry, that was another shocking result that probably not a lot of people are watching. Also, I had ODU, Old Dominion, in that game plus 7.5, I think it was. They won the game by like 30 in Virginia Tech. Just a really sad program with the Lane Stadium, the great atmosphere they have. The fans are passionate, but just haven't had a team probably in like 10, 15 years since that older Bielema was there. So just really tough to see these programs. Hopefully they could hire the right guys now going forward. And, college football is better when some of these top teams are have good programs. So Virginia Tech one was very shocking too. Not very shocking, got fired, but just very shocking the state of the program and where they kind of were last year. People were really betting on them as a dark horse. Now this year, 3 games in, fire their coach. It's an absolute mess for both those programs.
Yeah, I feel like Virginia Tech just went off the deep end so quickly. They were so not bad a couple of years ago, and now all of a sudden they're just one of the worst in FBS. And yeah, that fan base deserves more. They have that great atmosphere, that walkout and great intro there. And I couldn't believe that game. That was a great call on your part with the points and them winning it outright. But somebody texted me that score was 31-0, and I really couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, 31-0. They beat them, remember, Utah a couple of years ago. That was a huge win. And just for them to come back, I mean, it's Old Dominion. I don't care how bad Virginia Tech is. Like, you're a Power 4 team. You got to be able. This is an in-school state, and you're getting blown out by them. It's just unacceptable, really, from a fan base. So disappointing as a Penn State fan to see Brent Pry go this early, but it's just this way the business works. Cannot lose to Old Dominion by that many points.
Yeah, and like we said after week 1 and 2, like, there's ways to lose, and you just don't want to get embarrassed like that when you're supposed to win. So if you lost a tight one, kept it close, maybe a different story. But they looked bad against Vanderbilt the week before they got blown out. So a couple bad losses to start the year when your gaps are getting not even competitive. Like, it's just a bad signal. So yeah, I think it was good for him to go. We'll see who else they bring in there in VT.
And then really quick too, I have a note about Kansas State. I didn't even want to give them 5 seconds. I just cannot get over the fact how bad they are. They lose to Arizona. They look bad in that game. They had a little bit of life in the second half and a comeback, but they're a mess. Another loss for them. If they didn't beat South Dakota, they could be on 0-12 watch for how bad they're playing right now. Thankfully, though, they got the 1 win. But yeah, not good for Kansas State. I wanted to highlight them now because they are not my loser of the week. That's a quick spoiler. They will not be. So I had to at least throw them some shame.
Yeah, that again, just looking terrible. Are they the Florida State of last year, but not as much hype as Florida State had last year, but just a team that's absolutely bottoming it out. And you're right, they're going to fight for 2-3 wins. When this team was picked to win the Big 12 by, some esteemed experts and stuff. So it's a very, very interesting case there in K-State. But yeah, they really needed that one. They had a nice fight, came back in the third quarter, tied it up. But again, just too little, too late. They really started off the game poor. I think they went down 17-0 to start the game. So that's another good program that should be good in a good, conference that's gettable, and they're just not having it. So again, good shout out there with K-State losing again.
I may or may not have had Kansas State winning the Big 12. I don't know. We'd have to go look. Can't remember.
Good thing there's no video evidence of that, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, so might as well jump into the game recaps here. Pretty good slate. A lot of close games, a couple overtime games we'll get into. Starting out at noon, number 12 Clemson at Georgia Tech. We were both kind of leaning Clemson leading up to the game, but was never fully confident in this pick. Georgia Tech just played the better game. They're certainly living up to their expectations, getting the close win, a serious contender in the ACC. for the biggest takeaway for this game for me was just Clemson is just not who we thought they were at all. Week 1, there were signs. And then last week, of course, against Troy, there were even more signs, but it was still like, well, maybe they just aren't putting it all together. Their roster's still good. They're bringing back all these guys. But after Saturday, it's just clear that Clemson is not a contender this year at all. ACC now all of a sudden becomes wide open with Miami and Florida State and even Georgia Tech right now getting the huge win. Great game. They played great back and forth game. But Haynes King just did enough. It was a gritty game. It wasn't easy for them, but they get the win 24-21.
Yeah, this was really tight all around. Like even the box score was looking at that after the game, like very similar numbers. Definitely Clemson showed, better than I was expecting. Like you said, we weren't too confident on it, but just the line came down so much. And Georgia Tech, like you said, didn't play a flawless game. They didn't look amazing, but they did enough to win. And they, got out to that nice lead, really was keeping pace. And that's when they could use their run game and really chew a lot of clock there and keep Clemson off balance. So very interesting team, like you said, to look forward to in the big picture is Georgia Tech, with it being wide open now with a heavy favorite like Clemson now likely out of the picture. So it's going to be a new age basically at the top here with Miami actually looking good, Clemson not looking good, Georgia Tech, Florida State now looking good after what happened last year. So kind of like a little Twilight Zone maybe or something. But really well played game from Georgia Tech at home. That field goal at the end was a bomb. They got to give the kicker credit there. So it was a tough one, but it wasn't super alarming for Clemson. It's just, again, you just can't start 1 and 2 and how they looked, but better fight than I was expecting. But again, just not that top 10, top 5 team we were maybe thinking at the beginning of the year.
Right. And even with the expanded field, it really does become tough for a team like Clemson to make even the 12-team field without running the table at this point. One, because of that additional loss, but two, the ACC becomes now they're kind of sitting outside looking in on Florida State and Miami. They'd really have to probably win out, really, and they'd probably have to win the ACC. I don't know, 3 losses they get in. Normally, I would say 3 losses you could get in with the expanded field, but just kind of how it's shaking out, I feel like in the other conferences, especially like the SEC, you might have a couple 3-loss SEC teams get in now over, like a 3-loss Clemson, especially kind of after last year. So I know earlier in the season, but it's just fun to speculate about some of that stuff, I guess, this early. But yeah, you'd have to have a bad taste in your mouth if you're Clemson. Really have to completely change the roster or the season, probably win out if they want to make the playoff, which just looks unlikely right now.
Yeah, I think they showed last year too when they picked some of those 2-loss teams. A 3-loss team is so hard to get in. You really have to have like a perfect resume. The losses have to be super close to maybe top 10, top 15 teams. So, like you said, a lot of season Georgia Tech maybe could end up being a top 15 team at the end of the year if LSU stays at the top. But you're right, they got to run the table, which the margins are very thin, and you don't want to put yourself in those spots. But it'll be interesting. But yeah, Georgia Tech, keep your eye on them going forward here.
And then another noon game on Saturday, Alabama at home getting the big win over Wisconsin. They covered in this one. I think it was 20.5. It was actually close on the spread, 38-14. They do get it. First, they kind of feel like toned it down a little bit in the second half. It's probably could have gotten a little more out of control. I feel like Wisconsin was just simply outmatched. Alabama is looking a little bit back to where we thought they would be week 1 before that big loss to Florida State. So maybe a little bit of an overreaction on Alabama week 1, but nonetheless, they're kind of back on pace here. And I'd say they've proven themselves now a little bit enough over the last 2 weeks to show that they are, again, a contender in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question you got to ask. Was Alabama back? Maybe a little bit too early to tell, but again, they responded really good the last 2 games. I feel like the offense has really taken my eye. They really looked a lot better. I know it's against inferior competition, but this Wisconsin defense is actually pretty solid. They're not, national level defense, but their offense is where they have the problems. At Wisconsin, they really just had trouble scoring the ball here. But you're right, Alabama jumped out to a big lead. I think they were up 21-0, 21-7. Like they really got out to a nice lead, kind of toned it down the second half, like you said. So this game could even been a little bit more of a wider spread here at the end of the game. So yeah, Alabama looked really good. They just looked more comfortable. They looked more confident playing at home there. But like you said, they just completely overmatched Wisconsin. So not fully buying back into Alabama. I want to see them against some SEC teams, but I'm with you. I wouldn't completely throw them out. I think that could be more that Florida State actually is going to be pretty good this year. It's a bad matchup like we talked about. Still a bad loss. They definitely looked really outmatched in that game, but I'd pump the brakes maybe on Alabama going like 6-6 or something like that. I think they're after how they looked on week 1, and some people were saying. So I really think they are going to turn around, and I do trust them long term. You just got to give some of these teams some time, but it will be interesting to see once they get into SEC play. But I'm telling you, I like this team before the year. They did not look good. I completely sold them, but now I'm kind of eagerly going back in 50-50. I'm not fully jumping back in, but they looked very impressive the last 2 weeks. That's what you want to see from the offense, because the defense should come around and they're going to play a little more physical, a little more harder. So you just want to see that offense get a little more comfortable and better. And that's what I definitely saw the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they jump right into it. They have the bye week coming up, and we'll get into the previews later in the week on the podcast. But they go at Georgia in 2 weeks, then they have Vanderbilt at home. They go at Missouri. They play they play Tennessee. Then they go at South Carolina, LSU, and Oklahoma. So things get really tough from here on out for Alabama. So we'll really, I think that Georgia game will probably get a ton of questions answered in that one, just because it's Georgia. But even all of a sudden, Vanderbilt and Missouri, they're kind of worked their way up in the SEC, doing better, especially, this week, Vanderbilt with a huge win, even so Missouri. So it's going to be fun to watch and see how that conference plays out.
Yeah, definitely the middle of the SEC. Some of these teams, like you said, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Florida even hung around. Like, they looked okay, but they're still tough. But it's like, we thought it was going to be super hard in the SEC to begin with. Now it might be even harder because there's just so many good teams. So like you said, yeah, it's going to be tough sled. And Oklahoma looks really good too. So really tough for all these teams all around. But yeah, so it's going to be SEC play is going to be awesome.
Not sure, Pace, if you saw, but in College Game Day, when they interviewed Kalen DeBoer and all the Tennessee fans giving the tomahawk chant in the background.
I did not see that, actually.
I'll send you the clip. It was a great clip because it was so loud, and you know how they do that. It was like Kirk Herbstreit standing on the stage, in Knoxville, and then they were just mic'd up, and Kalen, and it was pretty hilarious. So good, awesome. Big shout out to the Tennessee fans, and I might as well just jump right into their game with the heartbreaking loss to Georgia this past Saturday. The Notre Dame game, Pace, I'm sure that one hit you hard, but between the two fan bases, I think Tennessee may have even had a worse way to lose at the end of that game, with a chance to win the game-winning field goal, very makeable. The worst part about it is I think half the stadium thought it went in. Not sure why, if you're a fan. I go to a lot of games. I know everybody doesn't have the privilege to do so, but I always will look at the official before. You cannot tell unless you are directly behind the goalpost. You can't tell at all. Like I've been sitting, like if you're at the 30 or something and you're looking, I can't tell if it's like 20 yards right or in. So like I just stare at the official. So I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but if you are going to a game, you need to just, when there's field goals, just look at the official, because that's a horrible way to think that your team won, and then not only did they not win, but then they go to overtime and then actually lose. So tough way to lose for them. They also controlled most of this game, which makes it even worse. I think if you're Tennessee, they really played well. All around a classic game. You're probably going to see it at the end of the year and top 25 games of the season. This was a really good game. We'll watch to see how both of these teams finish up in the SEC. Huge win for Georgia, really, in the race to the SEC. This was a big hurdle for them. Tennessee, I don't think this is a problem. I mean, you're still really competitive. You played well. Defense, I think, has some things to work on, but they're going to be right there. The only thing is, it's almost like the NFL and the SEC, where like these wins, like and losses, might really hurt you in November when you come back, in the race for the SEC, because this could be the difference between being like 9-3 versus 8-4 or something like that. And it could really be a bad loss. But credit where credit's due for Georgia. They hung in there. They, forced the missed field goal. They get to overtime. They force overtime, and they end up getting the win. So huge win for Georgia. Heartbreaking loss for Tennessee.
Yeah, those are all great points, Case. And yeah, like you said, Tennessee really controlled this game. They had a great game plan to start, really jumped on them early. I think they took a 21-7 lead and looked like they were actually going to control it. But you just knew that really showed Georgia's championship medal there. They really did not panic. They kept to the game plan. I thought Stockton looked really good. Like, I walked away from this game looking at both teams being like, wow, these were actually very impressive, which is hard to do when you're competing against each other for 60 minutes. So I was very impressed with both teams, honestly. The defenses both were a little lackluster. I did have the under in this game, which was over in like the second quarter. So, but Georgia, yeah, got to give Georgia a ton of credit for battling back. That Stockton, he made some big time throws, like 3rd down and 7, 3rd and 8. pressure at his feet and his face, and he made some really impressive throws. So he really impressed me there. And then Aguilar on the Tennessee side was sharp all game. And then they said on the broadcast too, it was either an amazing drive or a 3-and-out for Tennessee. It was just very boom or bust. They just couldn't get just a couple chunk plays or a little bit of a half drive there. It was either a full amazing drive touchdown or an absolute 3-and-out and just stalling out. So something to keep in mind going forward, but they looked really sharp for most of the game. But yeah, I was really impressed with Stockton, really impressed with Tennessee's quarterback as well. So just one of those games, like you said, these are close top 15 matchups that come down to a play or two, like the Texas A&M Notre Dame game. And one team makes those plays, the other team doesn't. Tennessee had a great chance to win it there at the end with the field goal. Can't blame everything on one play, as we like to say here for all these games. They definitely had some chances there to stop them on 4th down, the drive before and stuff. And then even in overtime, they kind of stalled, just kicked the field goal, let Georgia know. First play ran at 23 yards to the 2-yard line. So I wouldn't blame it all on one person here, but really impressed by both teams. I think Tennessee showed a lot, but like we say it all the time, if there was ever a year for Tennessee to do it, this was such a great situation at home, big lead. This would have been the year to do it, but it is very, very heartbreaking for them and their fans. But like you said, they're going to be very good, probably top of the SEC again, but this one would have been so nice to ride that momentum through SEC play. So let's see how they respond here after that very, very crushing loss. They just couldn't beat Georgia in years. So this one really would have done them favor. So that's a really tough loss for them.
At least they got a huge win on the quarterback trade for Tennessee, the unintentional quarterback trade, sending Nico to UCLA, and now Aguilar's playing awesome. Forgot to really, I think we highlighted him a little bit last week, and it'd be fun to watch. But yeah, they really lived up to the expectation offensively. Like you said, the defenses we'll see as they get in the SEC play. It seems like that's kind of a common theme right now around college football as a whole. It seems like there's a lot of defenses struggling.
Yeah.
Places where they usually, play better. So there's a little bit high scoring across the league, it seems. But yeah, good game all around. Great quarterback play, like you said. I was impressed with Stockton too, and Georgia just does what Georgia does. Kirby Smart, big win for them.
Yeah, like you said, the offense, that's something to keep in mind with some of these overs, because some of these teams are getting close to clearing it by themselves, putting up 40 plus. So yeah, some of these big primetime games, usually we see a lot of unders, but for this weekend, definitely a lot of overs. So definitely something to keep in mind.
Moving on to one of my favorites every single season. We had the backyard brawl this weekend in Morgantown, West Virginia. The Mountaineers getting the huge win, 31-24 over Pittsburgh. I told people that whatever I decide to bet on this game, you should do the opposite, and it would have hit again for you because I was on Pittsburgh in this game. I actually did not bet it in real life. That 7.5 number was probably just too much in a rivalry game like this. And, I was right. West Virginia not only covers, but they get the win. Low scoring, gritty game. Pittsburgh, I had them in the first half on my card, that -4.5. That was I just thought they'd be up by a touchdown. I thought they were a little bit better, and they kind of were. They looked like they were doing all right in the first quarter. Weren't able to score, and then I think it went to half, like 7-3 or something, just so low scoring. West Virginia was ahead. Crazy game, great atmosphere there. West Virginia, huge bounce back win for them. Not sure it really means anything. I still think they're a terrible team this year. Pittsburgh, more disappointing for them. I thought I was a little bit higher on Pitt going into the season. So this one would have been nice to have for me just to ride on going into ACC play. So now I look like a moron with that if you can't beat West Virginia. So not sure how the whole season will end up, but it is a rivalry game, so I don't want to overreact on either side. This is like, Alabama, Auburn for those folks living in, Western PA or West Virginia. So big rivalry game, fun game to watch, but West Virginia just does enough. Rich Rod gets the big win at home.
Yeah, got to give credit to West Virginia, but I agree with you too. This is more on the Pittsburgh side. They really kind of gave this game away. They were sloppy right from the first play of the game. Their quarterback got tossed, the ball pops him in the air because he kicks it. Like, this game was exactly what we thought, just sloppy, back and forth. These teams are not good, but it's just like just turnovers left and right, missed field goals, bad execution, went into overtime. So, but yeah, West Virginia really controlled the game for most of it. Pitt came out with some nice halftime adjustments, really had a nice third quarter, actually took the lead by 10, I think it was, going into the fourth quarter. And then West Virginia got stopped at like the 2 or 3, decided to kick the field goal, got the ball back then, went down, tied it up. So, Yeah, they made some plays at the end, but this is disappointing for Pitt, who was definitely head and shoulders. They felt like they were better. The spread definitely indicated it, given 7.5 on the road. So definitely a frustrating one. They kind of let this one slip through the cracks when they had that lead by 10 points late in the fourth quarter. So definitely very frustrating if you're a Pittsburgh fan. But yeah, West Virginia, definitely nice little bump for the program there. Like you said, I don't know if they're going to do anything, year long. I'm still have that Ohio game. The offense still looks really spotty, except for those last two drives when they needed it. They came through, but the whole game, it was just very clunky, still not great. They said some on the broadcast, too, they weren't afraid to play 5 quarterbacks. So that was just something very interesting you don't hear a lot. So I didn't even know teams had 5 quarterbacks on the depth chart, but I don't know if they're pulling somebody from a wide receiver, tight end to come in. But so, yeah, I would have a little pause if you would just see the final score here and think West Virginia is going to, keep running the table here in the Big 12. I think this was a little lucky and a little bit misleading, but yeah, Pittsburgh, very disappointing in an ACC that was definitely opening up now. They really could have taken that next step. Still have ACC play, so it's still an out-of-conference game, but let's see how they bounce back. But it's just the same thing with Pittsburgh every year, and I know these Penn State fans don't like them and they don't have anything nice to say about them, but they just do the same thing where it's just they have the expectations, they should be better, and they just throw up on themselves every game or every time they need to get a big spot. So if you're a Pittsburgh fan, it's probably the same things the last couple of years here.
Yeah, and if also, I'm not a Pittsburgh fan, but if there is any of them listening, I don't know how. I feel like I would be fed up with Pat Narduzzi by now. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like he's got to go because you can't. It's the same thing every year for Pitt, it seems, and it just they never live up to the expectation. And believe it or not, their expectations aren't that high. Beating
Right.
West Virginia is not that high of an expectation. Winning, trying to be an 8-9 win team in this ACC really isn't that high of an expectation. They're not talking about going to win a national championship there. Like they just want a good football. And it seems like every time I'm watching a Pitt game, and I said, I don't watch a lot of Pitt football, but it just seems like it's a disappointment every time they get on the field. Just something goes wrong. And like this game, yeah, like you said, you're given 7.5 on the road. Clearly, you have the talent gap, the talent edge, and just to lose the game outright that way and that ugly. Not good. Not good if you're Pitt. Also, really quick on the 5 quarterback thing for West Virginia. They should play them all at once. We should get 5 quarterbacks. Do the big cat, lateral like rugby type of offense implement in college football. Put a couple of them at wide receiver and just try to do a little bit of a lateral type of situation. That would be something I could get on. Maybe that could turn around their season.
Yeah, I mean that might be their best option going forward. But that was a great point you said. Like their expectations aren't even that high. They can't even clear that bar. Like you talk about the Alabama expectations and what DeBoer and that team has to go through week in, week out. Pitt's not asking for that. They're not even asking for anything close, and they just keep falling short. I like their quarterback. He looked good. Like you said, they have the talent. Defensive line's good. They have a good running back. They kind of move around at receiver too. Like they have the talent to be, in that upper echelon in the ACC. But you're right. Every year, it's just always some new, but it's the same thing over and over. Very frustrating.
Moving to South Florida, we had a big one, number 18 USF going to Miami. USF obviously getting 17.5 points coming off of a couple big wins, beating Boise and then in Florida, defeating them. You were right on par here, Mr. Paisley. Miami just blew them out. Not even really much of a game. 49-12, a little bit of a strange lightning delay or something going on there in the first quarter. It's hard to follow, so I missed a lot about this one. We could keep it quick, but Miami was just too much for USF. USF still a really good team. I think they'll be a player at the end of the season for the group of 5, but Miami just clearly better, more talented, faster, wasn't much of a game and able to cover the 17.5. I shouldn't have put this on my card with South Florida. I really don't know why I did. I just remember Saturday I had a weird feeling. I was like, I was swayed towards it. There was a lot of people on Miami and kind of, it felt like I could have seen, the blowout coming, but it was just one of those impulsive things Saturday morning. I got to stop doing it, but I fell into the trap. But this thing, kind of went as expected, except for if you took my card, then it didn't. But Miami with the blowout win, just too much for USF.
Yeah, like we said, it was a ton of points. Like this was just crazy, but they bake it in and everything into the line, but didn't even matter. But yeah, this one finally felt good to get one completely right here. But yeah, not much on this game. Just basically, again, tough spot for USF. Don't want to take too much away from this game from their point of view. But like we said last week, and after week one, I think Miami's a legit contender for a national title after all these other teams are kind of, maybe not living up to expectation. We'll get to LSU here in a minute. They're not looking that as hot. Like Ohio State's still there. Penn State still playing with their food a little bit here. We'll get to them probably in 2 weeks against the big game against Oregon. But keep your eye on Miami. But like we said with Pittsburgh, they always do the same thing every year. Will Miami disappoint? This is finally the year they actually look good early, but they have been known to stumble late in November. So I've heard this with Miami before. I want to start believing in them. I want to think they're a really good team, but they just have this thing about them that they do like to blow it. So I can't see it. I can't go 100% all in without seeing it first. So, and I think fun fact, they actually do travel to Pittsburgh, I think like second to last or last game of the season. So
that's right.
We shouted that out early in the preseason pod, but that's something to look forward to. Just keep your eye on that. But yeah, Miami, that's really impressive. 49 points with the weather delay and stuff. That offense is cooking. It was a terrible spot for USF, like we said, but keep your eye on Miami. I think they're a legit, now with Clemson taking a hit, they're definitely the front runner and maybe a national title contender.
Yeah, Miami will disappoint if there's any listeners out there, but they will at some point. I don't know what week it's going to be. It's going to be one where you're just not expecting it, and it may not even be on the card. It might just be like that end of the game, like end of the season game, like you mentioned, going to Pittsburgh. I think I highlighted that one, in the preseason. But yeah, a huge win for them. I'm not gonna just talk shit on Miami right now. I'm gonna give them some credit. They got the big win. This is not the time. Good congratulations, Miami, are a top 5 team right now, but they will disappoint at some point. So I'll just throw it out there. But big win for them, 49-12.
Yeah, and just one last point. Again, we're going to mention some stuff, but it's maybe not, everything. But watching that Notre Dame defense on Saturday night and seeing what Miami only put up 27 points, and I think they only put up 3 points in the second half or maybe 10 against Notre Dame in that week 1 matchup, that's a little alarming. Like I thought, like they really bogged down. So maybe just a sign to, look at. They really went super conservative in that Notre Dame game, and they probably could have poured it on more, but they really did not look good. So we talk about them blowing a game or doing that. That's just something to keep in mind, but it's not everything. But Miami, don't get too excited with them maybe.
Another game, Florida traveling to Death Valley, LSU getting the loss there, 20-10. LSU getting the win, I guess I should say. Before I even get into this, I want to apologize formally for once saying on this podcast that I thought DJ Lagway was a decent quarterback because he's not, and he's terrible, and he should not be playing in the SEC. He's not their only problem. Florida has a ton of problems right now, and this was a tough task for them too, going through LSU. I'm not trying to say this was a shocker by any means, because it wasn't. But DJ Lagway is really bad. 5 interceptions. I don't care, how they all happened. Five of them. That's just it doesn't matter. That's way too many. Playing a horrible game, lost 20-10. LSU didn't look great either, to be honest. But it's a tough. I know SEC's tough. We got a lot of talent all around. Florida coming off the big loss against South Florida, so a little bit emotional for them. Weren't sure how they were going to rebound. So they kept this thing close, really within contention. But 5 picks for Lagway. Terrible, really, really bad, basically.
Yeah, that's definitely the headliner. And then, just in general, this Florida offense is just sputtering. Like, struggled last week. That's what we highlighted after the USF game. But the defense is okay, as we also highlighted. Like, they actually held their own, like held LSU down to 20 points at home. That should be enough to at least keep it super close or maybe sneak out an upset. And their offense just could not do anything. So, yeah, I'm with you, DJ Lagway. All the hype, all the stuff. Yep, no, he's not the guy. And they have a ton of talent on that offensive side, so it's really disappointing. I want to shout out Brian Kelly again. He just seems to make headlines every week within the press conference or on the sideline. He got trucked again. He's really taken some hits. He's got maybe hit the weight room a little bit there, but just crazy scenes there. And then he was freaking out a reporter after the game because he was trying to say they won the game, but they obviously did not look impressive. So if you're getting that upset when you win the game, but because someone's asking that you didn't look good, that's not a great sign, because they didn't. The offense did not look great. Defense showed up again, but again, it was the Florida offense. So this is another one that, Clemson, definitely not what we thought what they were. It's a big win week 1, but how good does that look now? There's not a ton of teams that look great in college football, so it's hard to get a marquee win. But LSU definitely has their faults too. He thought at home they'd be comfortable and put up a lot more points. Third downs, they were really terrible. That's what one of the reporters asked, and he freaked out about. So, again, you could take away wins and losses, but as a betting page and as bettors, we got to take all the information that we can. So we're not just taking wins and losses. So LSU won the game, but again, did not look impressive again. So something to keep your eye on. You can't really be running through and be if we want to be a top 3, top 5 team and really be struggling on offense this much with a projected first overall quarterback. So got to give props to their defense. LSU looked really good on defense again, but that offense really needs to get going if they want to maybe start making some waves in the national picture.
Maybe Florida could contact West Virginia for one of their 5 quarterbacks to trade for Lagway.
Great point.
Also, really quick on the Brian Kelly press conference, this might be an unpopular opinion. I'm not a Brian Kelly fan by any means. However, I am in favor of the coaches starting to attack reporters thing. I think it is funny. And I that question was fair, but some of the questions are just outrageous that coaches get asked all the time. And like, I always try to think if I would, somehow in their shoes, like I would be probably just be flipping out on reporters every press conference. I probably would cost me my job, and part of why I would probably never be able to do it. But I am pro coaches flipping out on reporters. I just want to lay it out for the record.
It's great content, and I think there was a little history because the guy kind of led in with the question. It was a really fun little interview if you watch it, like 3-minute video. So they definitely have their guys that they're seeing every week, ask them the annoying questions. So there definitely might have been some history there between those two. Yeah. But great moments and great podcast on Twitter there.
All right, and then closing out our Saturday slate, and I know we're not hitting on everything here, but these were just some of the games we previewed going into the week, so we might as well close with it. Vanderbilt, Paisley, you were all over this one. The underdog didn't need the points, getting the huge win over South Carolina, 31-7. I know Lenora Sellers got injured in this game, but it was really all Vandy leading up to that, and afterwards, not sure the result would have been any different in that situation. Vandy looked really good. Congrats to them getting back into the AP top 25. Big shout out to Vanderbilt on the win. And then also I'd like to say to one of our viewers, Carolina Jackpot. I was aware, and we both were aware, that I guess South Carolina only gave up 1 touchdown all season. However, it looks like they gave up 4 in this game. So sorry for the loss. Thanks for the listening, and hopefully you keep listening. But Vandy, huge win, 31-7, blowout win, Paisley.
Yeah, we love all of our fans. I think he shouted out the guy on the right and really took a personal shot at me there. So love the interaction there. But it's good to get a win there. Definitely probably a South Carolina fan down there. But again, keep commenting. We love the comments, love the interactions. But yeah, that's what college football is all about and betting here. But Vanderbilt just took this game to them again. It's so weird thinking that Vanderbilt could be like a top 15 team in the country, and it's going to be really weird until they do it. But I think we got to start thinking about this team differently. They are a legit team. They're going to be a force in the SEC. Now, again, we weren't too high on South Carolina, so it's not like they upset a top 10 or top 5 team that we actually thought. But I think they're really going to play spoiler like they kind of did last year. Some of these bigger schools are bigger favorites. So why not? With the way college football is going, all this turnover, all this crazy stuff, why can't Vanderbilt be a top team in the SEC and work their way up to maybe top 5, top 7 in the SEC? So they're definitely showing it. They're just showing up every week and just being super physical with that run game. The defense looks really good now back-to-back weeks, not like the South Carolina defense that we didn't preview. So got to give Vanderbilt a lot of credit here. But again, it was tough to see Sellers go down. But like you said, this game was kind of out of hand, and it was not really in South Carolina's favor when he was in the game. So Vanderbilt going on the road second straight week after going to Virginia Tech, but then we saw how they're ending, but still very impressive to do that on your not home turf. So got to give Vanderbilt a lot of credit. Diego Pavia, people knew him last year, big time name now this year. I think if he could stay healthy with the way they do things, they could definitely be a contender, not to win the SEC, but maybe, upset a couple top teams and work their way into a top 5 spot, maybe in the SEC.
Some are saying Heisman watch down there for Pavia down Vanderbilt. Also, yeah, their schedule, I mean, it's a very difficult schedule, so I don't want to come across saying it's not, but at least the path to 5-0 looks very good, going to Georgia State and Utah State. So it looks like they're going to be going to Tuscaloosa when they're 5-0. So they're probably going to be a top 15 team at that point. Maybe, I mean, I don't know what they are. They came in the AP, I think maybe low 20s. I'd have to see today. I actually forget. But either way, it's probably going to be a ranked on ranked game there in Alabama. So that will be fun to watch. A little bit of a redemption game that will be for Alabama after getting stunned last year.
Right. That'll be a big one. I would have thought 2 or 3 years ago, Alabama, Vanderbilt would be a huge robbery and big game, but here we are.
That's why we love college football. All right. Well, that's pretty much a wrap on the recap. Now, one of the most fun things that we do on the show, on the recap show every week, are winners and losers of the week. It could be teams, players, fan bases, really anything. You could take the question however you want it. Mr. Paisley, I guess we'll start with you. I guess we can start with losers this week. I'm always a more fan of the losers of the week, more fun. Who is your loser of the week?
Yeah, I mean, just before we get to that case, I don't mind if we skip over the Notre Dame game. I don't really want to talk about it, but we did not recap that. We want to break that down before, but we totally don't have to. I'd be totally okay with that. We could just
you know what? I was doing that intentionally, not even to bring it up for you, but actually, great flag on that. Great flag missing Notre Dame game. Yeah, you could. I'll just let you just go off on the Notre Dame game. Basically, we all saw how that happened. 41-40, fourth down. A&M scored it. High scoring game. Crazy game nonetheless. Heartbreaking loss for Notre Dame fan. Paisley, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I really thought you were trying to save me there, but I just felt for the love of the pod and for all the
totally missed it. Actually, not even intentionally.
See, we don't even make this stuff up here on the pod. This is what it's all about. But yeah, just I don't have to go into great detail like my 20-minute rant after the NIU loss, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I don't feel like as like anger, like painful. Like they played good on offense. Now the defense is atrocious. They are so bad, but they really did a lot of good things on the offensive side of the ball. They really fixed. They got back to the run game. They have a ton of talent on that side. I mean, CJ Carr looks good in the first two games. If you don't think he looks good, and then he's going to be a nice starter here at the rest of this year, next year, possibly a third year, that's a great sign, at least that we have a really solid quarterback. We haven't had one of those at that high level. Ryan Leonard was so good last year, but he could be even better. The offense is just so complete now. They could run the ball, throw the ball as well. So they really keep teams off balance. So like I said, I really tried to nail this game as I really thought Notre Dame's offense would have success, which they did. I really like the over in this game, but yeah, the defense just is very bad. Going off of last year, I think it just really shows there's a lot of factors here. Playing top 15, 10 teams, your first two games, you're trying to break in a lot of new guys. Defensive coordinator is an issue. I highlighted this in the preseason, highlighted this after week one. I did not like the hire. A lot of fans, a lot of people did not get the hire of Chris Ash. Coming from the NFL ranks, he was at Rutgers, got fired. So was not the good hire with some of the other guys. They had a guy they could have promoted from within that I thought was the lead guy. So very interesting there. And this is what's showing. But the offense is really taking steps, really looking good. Texas A&M's offense, like I highlighted too, is really good this year. They're a different team where they're not a defensive run the ball team. They're very explosive, really good receivers with that Concepcion coming over from NC State that we highlighted. So I was a little scared by them. And it was just a legit kind of tennis match, just back and forth. And that's what it's going to be like for Notre Dame the rest of the season here. Hopefully, in the future, they could clean this up a little bit, just some you don't see. But I think losing Al Golden going to the Cincinnati Bengals, he was such a good coach and definitely was made for the NFL. And we kind of got lucky having him in college the last couple of years. And then losing some of their captains on Jack Kaiser on linebacker and Xavier Watts at safety, who their big issues are at linebacker and safety. And they cannot, it's hard to fill those holes, just guys running wide open and stuff. So, and they're making some good headway in the NFL. So they were definitely two really good guys and leaders and vocal leaders. So they're just looking for guys to step up leadership wise. It does suck going down 0-2. Season's probably over unless they run the table again, which that's going to be very hard to do in back-to-back seasons. But it's tough when you play these top tier games. They're not getting embarrassed. They're not getting blown out. And it's just a bounce here or there at the end that just doesn't go their way. Like to reiterate again, like I said, after the Miami loss, they had a lot of nice breaks go their way the last 4 or 5 games of the season last year. And just some of these like breaks that they need are just not going their way this year. Like in the Miami game, this game with a botched snap at the end, a targeting call that wasn't great. They missed a holding call in the last play with the Notre Dame D lineman that would have pushed them back to like 4th and 20. They had it covered really good in that last play too, but just kind of made a nice throw, nice catch. So it's tough when they put themselves in these situations because it does come down to a bounce or two. So I'm not pressing the panic button or, it's a whole program line. It's going to be terrible in the next 4 or 5 years. I just think it was a very close, just, nitpicking first 2 games, and they happen to be on the wrong side of a couple bad bounces. Now, I have a lot of confidence in them going forward on offense the rest of the year. I think they're going to put up a ton of points, but they're going to be in a lot of shootouts and a lot of, defensive games. I think they have to get better. These might be the 2 best offenses definitely they're going to face all year. So can they run the table? Yes. Is it going to be hard? Yes. it does kind of feel like the season's over, but I'm not as discouraged. They just really got to clean up the defense foremost. It's an absolute mess. Can't get any pass rush, can't cover anybody except for Leonard Moore, who had that nice interception. Linebackers are bad, safeties are bad, a lot of bad things. So I think it's just one of those kind of like Clemson, kind of thought they were going to be a lot better, and maybe they're more just like a 15 to 25 best team in the country, maybe not a 5 top 10 team. So just kind of have to readjust the expectations for this year, but very tough. Feel bad for Tyler Buckner, that snap, and they kept showing him at the end of the game. Wouldn't let the camera off him, but can't blame it on one guy, one play. So a lot of things went wrong in that game and just kind of got unlucky. Bad bounce at the end. Very tough though, 0-2, and that's probably the season that wraps it up there.
Paisley, I hate to say this, but I feel like I'm partly a reason why Notre Dame lost this game, because I had A&M in my card, as you know, 6.5 points,
Right.
as everyone is aware. And Notre Dame scored. I was like, oh, whatever. And I was like, shoot. And I was texting somebody else, and I was like, I just got fucked on the spread on a close game because Notre Dame would have kicked the extra point. They would have gone up by 7. I was like staring at my screen, like before the snap. You know how you always fans, I'm like, please drop the snap, please drop the snap, please. And I swear to God, when he dropped, I was almost stunned. I was like, how did that just happen? Like, out of all the times, I was literally, I thought like I was God or something. Like, I was like, no way. Like, there's no way that just happened. And then of course, how it ended up with A&M going down and scoring, and you know, the rest is history. But yeah, that was crazy, crazy ending the game. Definitely a thriller. With the Georgia Tennessee, I think this will also be, unfortunately, I guess for you, probably a top 25 game of the year, just because of the shootouts. ESPN, they like highlighting these type of games. On a serious note, though, biggest takeaway definitely is Notre Dame defense. I was a little bit even too high on them again this game, even after seeing the Miami game. I just can't believe the amount of points, 80 points. In this one, and same thing where the tide was kind of all on the over, and then on my card I decided to go under because I listened to a few podcasts and I was like, maybe this game will end up like 14-10. You know, Notre Dame played one game. Like, let's not overreact. Like, maybe they just have to settle in here. You know, completely wrong on that one. Defense is definitely just not all there right now. But like you said, Carr looked pretty good. The offense looked awesome. Like, nothing on the offense. And A&M's offense, by the way, those receivers, wow, like they are really good. I couldn't believe the speed on the outside they had. And Marcel Reed, I'm not a huge Marcel Reed fan. Like, I feel like he's overrated a lot of times. Like, he gets the ball, and sometimes I'm like, you know, I feel like sometimes he could be really good or really bad, like missing guys, but he just played an awesome game. I mean, very minimal mistakes, and it seemed like whoever had the ball last would have won this game, and that's kind of exactly what happened.
Yeah, Marcel Reed looks a lot better than last year. He couldn't even throw like a 5-yard pass last year, but he really worked on his game or something in the offseason. But that defense is really not that good on Texas A&M, so that's going to be a problem going into SEC play. But they definitely could be a factor in SEC play. But like you said, even after the drop snap too, there was like 3-4 minutes left. All you need to do is stop them from a touchdown too. Like, even with all that, they still need to go the length of the field and stop it. So I hate people were bagging on him on that one play and stuff, but there was a ton of things wrong. But like, even with all that, you still need to stop them. Just again, Notre Dame's just not making those big time plays to win these big games, and you need to do those, which they did last year, not living up to it this year.
And they do have a manageable schedule, like you said. They probably are the best offenses they'll play out there all year, with the exception of maybe Southern Cal if they get going. I see they're on a little bit of a hot streak. They haven't really played anybody, so we'll see when they get in the Big Ten play.
Right.
But it is manageable. It is, it's possible. But let's just say this: they'll probably be the favorite in every game, I'd say, with the exception of the USC game, maybe. But still a lot different to be the favorite to actually go and win 10 games in a row. It's difficult. So.
Yeah, last year was just such a cakewalk after NIU, but this year it is a couple tough spots. They got Boise at home. They got Southern Cal, like you said. They got to go to Arkansas, who actually looks okay this year. So it's not going to be the same as last year where they could just run the table. And with this defense being this shaky, you're not going to feel comfortable in any game. So I just feel like it's not going to be the exact same as last year, but definitely still doable.
Okay, so apologies for skipping over the Notre Dame game, Paisley. Now. I will get to what everybody's waiting for, the winner, loser of the week. Paisley, loser of the week.
Yes, we can now get into it. My loser of the week for myself is the Duke Blue Devils. I was high on them, put them as a lock, really was so confident. I thought the number was wrong. I thought they should be the favorite. And then watching that entire game, as I was watching their aim game, they are terrible. They played terrible. Tulane actually is a lot better than I thought. But they just really controlled the game. I really thought they would bounce back after that bad Illinois team. And you want to talk another bad defense. What is Manny Diaz doing with Duke? He's supposed to be a defensive guy. They're getting carved up by Tulane, by Illinois, dropping a 50-piece on them. So that is a very troubling sign. Like we said, in the ACC, we were looking for teams. Duke was maybe on the rise there. And then it just seemed like this week 2 loss really hurt them against Illinois. And now it's stumbling into Tulane. But I was really expecting them to bounce back. So that was very disappointing. But they have a lot of problems on the defensive side. And Mensah is just not living up to that full bill that he was the top quarterback in the portal. This was also a thing someone said the portal was not that great this year. So if you're really relying on the portal, I think that just shows that some of these even top 5, top 10 players in the portal are just not living up to it. So very disappointing for the Duke Blue Devils. I really don't want to bet them anymore going through the season here, but we shall see. But I was very disappointed in them.
Yeah, great pick and great, or not a great debut here, not debut, but really start to the season for these Penn State assistant coaches. Manny Diaz, not sure what he's doing. Great ball on that, giving up that many points. But great pick there. I'm kind of in alignment. My loser of the week is also one that I bet on that I got absolutely screwed. And that was Saturday night, 10 o'clock, Boston College. I don't know what they were doing. Stanford is terrible. And they kind of opened up okay. I saw they were up like 20-6 or 20-10 or something in like the second or third quarter. I think it was the second quarter, and they were playing okay. And then Stanford just has the best second half I think they've had since Andrew Luck and Christian McCaffrey. And they not only cover, they get the win. Maybe I'm wrong about Stanford. I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't know a lot about Stanford. I know they're bad this year. They don't have any players. They lost to Hawaii week 1. And I was really impressed with BC. I thought this was a ton of points, but I was like, it's a ton of points, but not going to be enough. I really thought BC was going to go in and really just blow them out. I mean, nonetheless, wouldn't have been my loser of the week, but to lose outright the way they did, Bill O'Brien, just loser of the week. Very disappointed in BC and him. Not good.
Yeah, this one was a head scratcher with Stanford. I was not expecting this one either, to see them win outright. I actually just thought they didn't cover, but then I looked this morning and saw they won outright, which was very surprising. But
BC did nothing in the second half. They didn't move the ball.
They looked terrible the first couple of weeks, and I thought that program was dead. They got the interim coach just coaching for this year while they look for one. Like, it's a mess of a program. So Boston College. Could this be a thing with the too much travel with the ACC? It's still very on the season, so you shouldn't be worrying about travel this much. But I know they went to Michigan State. Probably came back home, went all the way out to Stanford. Like, you just shouldn't be making these across the U.S. here, road trips and flights. So, it's not everything, like we said, but just trying to throw out some opinions out here. But it's just weird to see Boston College fly all the way across the country just to play one game. Like, it's just so weird. But, got to give Stanford credit, but that was definitely very disappointing for Boston College there.
All right, Paisley, on a positive note here, who is your winner of week 3?
Yeah, could have picked a couple ones that we broke down, but I'm going to go to a game on Friday night. I'm going to go to my Houston Cougars. They were a team that I shouted out at before the season started. They were a very long shot to win the Big 12, but they actually looked better than I thought. They looked really good the first couple of weeks, and this was a nice test against Colorado, who was definitely down. They were playing their third-string quarterback, but that was by choice. There was no injuries, but their defense is legit. They really held the final score was a little misleading. It was actually I felt like it was a lot bigger gap than it was at the end of the game there. But Connor Wegman from Texas A&M last year, again, these are just different fits, different styles, less pressure. Now in Houston, he looks really comfortable. The offense looks solid, and the defense looks really good. They really bottled up Colorado the entire game. So really got to give a lot of credit to Houston. They're going to have some big showdowns coming up, but Houston is a team to look out for. I'm telling you, they are really good and could be a player in the Big 12. So shout out the Houston Cougars.
Great win there. Houston, we do not have a problem this year for them. My winner of the week, Mr. Paisley, is my great friend, Rich Rodriguez, head coach of West Virginia. Coming back there, played there, started his coaching career there, had an up and down career, coming back to West Virginia and losing to Ohio, and then a heck of a bounce back, getting the win against a rival, Pitt, a huge win. really just the atmosphere there was great. I don't know if you saw the post-game interview with him, but he was just going off. It looked like he just won the Powerbomb, and he was so excited. Not what I anticipated. I remember Rich Rod, like those days in Michigan, like from 08 to 2010 or 11, when they were just really bad, and that ended, crashing, burning in flames. So it's nice to see, things go his way. Congrats, huge rivalry win. Good win for him. I mean, that was just, if you haven't seen that interview and you're listening, go watch it, go on Twitter and search it, because it was a great 1-minute clip. It's what college football's all about. Well, I like it more than the NFL. And just great game by them, and huge winner of the week, Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's why I love college football too. Just the passion, the fan interactions, the coaches, how much it means to them. But got to give him a ton of credit. Like you said, he really turned around Jacksonville State the last couple of years. He did his time at the lower level.
Yeah.
Now came back up. Like you said, to bounce back after that bad loss at Ohio. Really nice win for West Virginia in the program. So got to give him credit. Good shout out there.
All right, folks. Well, that is our week 3 recap. We will be back, I guess, on Wednesday, previewing week 4. Season is going right along. But yeah, until then. Oh, and then quick reminder, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, give us DMs. We appreciate it. We are tracking the views. So keep commenting, even if it's negative. Carolina Jackpot talking to you. We appreciate the input. And we will see everybody Wednesday.